Hey, welcome to On the Chain. This is Jeff here solo tonight, but we are going to get into a few great things. As you guys saw on the thumbnail, can XRP hit $100? Somebody said that. We're going to get into the who, the why, the what. We also want to talk about some of the new crypto legislation that is being introduced actually in 2 days' time on June 7th. There should be some new crypto legislation being presented, at least a draft. A draft has already been presented, but that's being clarified and updated. Will this new crypto legislation bring clarity for the digital asset space in the US and all around the globe, even though the rest of the globe is doing pretty good without it? Now, can it also save the US dollar? Those are some of the big pressing questions that we're going to cover tonight. So, if you guys are ready, I am ready to kick this thing off. So, let's go.
Welcome to On the Chain.
Welcome to On the Chain. So it's great to see everybody here. Give a shout out to where you guys are tuning in from. I already see Australia in the house over here. So we got people tuning in from all over the globe. Let's see if we can get somebody from every single continent. And then we are doing fantastic. So if there's anything you guys want to get into, anything you guys want to talk about, bring that up. Let's get into it. I do want to go over a comment that was left on one of our previous videos by George Yao. Now, George Yao said, Gary Gensler is in a bind. Whatever he says only shortens the hangman's noose. The end is coming soon as the court knows that they are being played. Now, that's a great point. Is the court being played like a fiddle by Gary Gensler and his team over at the SEC? Now he continues, pressure for congressional hearings soon to investigate this blatant alleged SEC extreme conflict of interest against the public interest that SEC alleged is in the public interest. So look at this conflict that's going on right here. I like this statement from George, but there's this blatant, right, conflict of interest that takes place. Now the SEC supposedly is there to stand up for and protect the public interest, yet their conflict of interest is actually in direct opposition to public interest, especially those that are invested in XRP. So George continues, this shows the world that large corporations with deep pockets can allege influence a major government agency to favor one corporation over another for personal and corporate profit. Continues, the system is rigged to favor the rich, have proven true, which means democracy makes the richer richer and not everyone else. It's time to level the playing field for the ordinary person. Now, you can say, hey, you know what? Enough is enough with these globalists and the elitists within government, some of the elected, especially the unelected. So you have an individual like a Gary Gensler that is unelected, appointed, and yet think about the amount of power that he wields over the individual investor, and he parades and struts around, at least in his living room from what we've seen. He struts around, uh, and it's not a good outcome for the investors here. So we've got Japan, we got someone in from Colorado, man, we got Sacramento here with a crypto investigator. What is going on? We got people bouncing in all over from Australia. Got Indian Harbor Beach, Florida, which is awesome. We got people coming in from all over. So people are fired up. People are excited. You know why? Because crypto is going places, and it's going places big time and going places big. So that is really, really important. So let's go over here. I've got to actually, I forwarded a a copy of this last draft of this bill. So let's see if we can download it real quick. Now, this was, I believe, from March. So now we're going to get a new update that should be coming out here very, very soon. And the new update is going to really be pretty enticing. Now, the thing is, Chip and I have talked about this. Like, you have the Token Taxonomy Act. You know, why not continue with that? Now, the Token Taxonomy Act has been put in front of Congress multiple times. So now this one with Cynthia Loomis, this one is actually going to get put in front of the Senate, and it's actually a bipartisan bill, which is great. So you've got Cynthia Loomis working, on a bipartisan basis, which just like the Token Taxonomy Act, which is really important. Where you have, and when we look at U.S. politics, then having a bill that's presented both by someone from the Republican side and someone from the Democrat side that is out to benefit the people and not just packed full with, all sorts of fat that really has nothing whatsoever to do with the direct outcome of what they actually say that it does. Now, I'm going to pull this over here onto the other screen so we can actually dig in. And there is a poll going on right now. So if you guys look, at what point do you quit your job? $1 XRP, $10 XRP, $100 XRP, 589. So obviously we got to get that 589 in there somehow. All right. So the first thing that we're going to go over today, and we got a couple great things to cover, but I want to get into this draft of the bill, and then later in the week we're going to dissect the update, which is great. So, hey, we got Mark from Manchester, UK, tune in here. We got people from all over the US. Man, we got George from Panama, which is awesome. And this is really great. We got Canada tuning in here. We got Daytona Beach. Man, we got people from all over, even in Canada, which is shocking. All right. I keep skipping over the share screen thing here. All right, here we go. So let's share screen number 2. Let's pull that up. Pull up screen number 2, please. Where is it? There we go. All right. So we're going to dig into this a little bit. Going to dissect it, kind of dive through as much as we can. Now, the idea here in the title of this draft, to provide full responsible financial innovation and to bring digital assets fully within the regulatory parameter. Now, going through the Senate, so be it enacted by Senate and House of Reps of the U.S. Now, there's obviously quite a bit that's going to be in here. This is actually 70 pages. And as you go through all the sections of the bill, like I said, pretty much the entire bill has to do with digital asset and normalizing digital asset. Look at that. We got XRP over here from Michigan. What is up? Got Mohammed coming in from Ohio. What is going on? So Bird Dog from the magnetic north. Wow, Mount Meru. So, all right. So what do we got here? We got responsible taxation. So let's go through some of these sections. Now, what's interesting about the draft of this bill is that it does include some components that we saw within the Token Taxonomy Act that really address the Securities Act of 1933 and the Securities Exchange Act of 1934. Now, those are really, really critical because that's also the beginning of when we start to really identify certain offerings as securities and also giving some authority over to the SEC. And within this bill, we're also seeing We're also seeing some other interesting items that have to do with. Oh, anyhow, okay. So let's get it. So I was going to say have to do with taxation, and that becomes kind of an important part as well, because if we think about this idea of moving from one crypto to the other, and this is something also addressed within the Token Taxonomy Act, but this really is important, because as we start seeing that maybe some of the authority is moved over to the CFTC, whereas some of the authority may be in the hands of the SEC, but probably, mostly within the CFTC. So we got to go through it. So that's a responsible security innovation, responsible commodities innovation, and we start getting in. Look at this revision of the term futures commission. Now, this isn't going to necessarily, when we look at all these sections, they won't all necessarily make it into the final bill. But when we see this final draft, they really broken up. Now, I saw one thing in here, and as we get into section 6, and you kind of read into this, and I thought it was interesting that this was actually put into, see if I can highlight. There we go. So I thought this was really interesting that this was put into this bill because as we look at it, right, responsible payment innovation, but here part of it is a study on the creation of an official digital currency by who? By China. So we have the digital yuan, and then they further get into use of official digital currency of the People Republic of China on government devices, and they talk about tracking, then all the different things that are happening, and it becomes really, really important that they are actually looking at this digital currency because there's a significant distinction, as we all know, between a digital currency and a digital asset. So a digital currency, which would be like the digital yuan or maybe a CFTC, which is completely not the CFTC, a CBDC, a central bank digital currency. So when we start seeing it centralized in the hands of certain powers, especially, when we look at what can a government do with the powers that they are then granted within that digital currency from a tracking perspective and a control perspective. So that has to be addressed, and they have to really identify. And then you have to really look, is the U.S. also emboldened to then work with this digital yuan that gets presented? All right. So here we have responsible banking innovation, responsible interagency coordination. So here is really where you start looking at the different agencies actually working with one another. So it's not just the SEC with a monopoly on the control, of this item. And then we get into, okay, so now they get into certain definitions here. So we understand, what is the Securities Exchange Act of 1934? What's the Securities Act of 1933? What is, they might even get into the IRS code, like in the Token Taxonomy Act. They addressed an IRS code from 1986. Some of it has to do with retirement funds and where you can put your money, etc. So here we get more definition. Let's see here. And I think this is important also because they're really defining within the bill, giving a clear definition, right, of what is DLT, what is distributed ledger technology, right? That's important. You have to define it. What is a digital asset intermediary, right? This is also important. What is a digital asset, right? I mean, we could take it for granted that, hey, let's understand it, but here, they are going to define what a digital asset is. They're going to define a digital asset intermediary. So let's look at how they defined digital asset and kind of move on from there. But here it says, it means a natively electronic asset that confers economic proprietary access powers and is recorded using cryptographically secured distributed ledger tech or any similar analog, and includes virtual currency and payment stable coins, and may comprise other financial assets such as ancillary assets and securities. So it's pretty broad, range of the entire digital asset space. Then they get into, okay, digital asset intermediary. What is DLT? What is a payment stable coin? So maybe there's this big push right now for stable coins. Now we move into a stable coin, maybe like USDC or others, So let's see. So here they define, what is a stable coin? It's a digital asset that is denominated or pegged to the value of ledger tender as described in section 5103, or in the legal tender of a foreign country, excluding cases in which foreign country has adopted virtual currency as legal tender, is accompanied by a statement from the issuer or the reasonable expectation of users that the denominated or pegged value set forth in subparagraph A will be maintained and be available upon redemption, derives value from or is backed by one or more underlying finance. So this is really great that, they go in. Why do they have to go and define this? Because it no longer is ambiguous. At this point, it's very, very clear, what all of these different things that we might take for granted, but the majority of the people in Washington are relatively clueless on what all of these things mean. We go down into virtual currency. And so this is really, great, within this draft bill that they get into, all of these different elements, right down into, responsible taxation, not the crazy taxation that's just going to be randomized and maybe tax on every single transaction. Now, this is what's interesting is that they took this idea, which is here it is, the IRS, the Internal Revenue Code of 1986. This is taken from the Token Taxonomy Act. So if we look through this new draft bill, there's a lot of legislation in here that is taken from what Warren Davidson, put into this. So this is really great. Uh, Oh, and Darren Soto as well. So we have Darren Soto from Orlando, Democrat, and Warren Davidson out of Ohio, Republican. So now we're really seeing, a lot of these elements, a lot of the good elements. So this is really amazing. But here, okay, in general, gross income of an individual shall not include gain by reason of changes in exchange rates from the disposition of digital assets in a personal transaction as such term defined. Obviously, I got to go and read that, but here it says the preceding sentence shall not apply if the gain which would otherwise be recognized on the transaction exceeds. So basically, they're saying in that transaction, if it's a personal transaction and your gain is around $600 in that individual transaction, there will be no, it's not a taxable event, which is, there has to be a starting point. Obviously, we'd like it to be bigger, but they understand that in these small transactions, you go to buy something, or you're moving from one asset to another. How is it that you're taxed every single time? So they really are trying to understand and find, the best solution. Might not be the best for us, but at least it's moving in a direction, where there's some clarity and some definition to it. Now let's go on. Retirement account treatment of digital asset. This also was taken out of the Token Taxonomy Act, and another item that actually is really important. It addresses the Internal Revenue Code of 1986, rules relating to digital assets. So they want to talk about how do you put that into and invest in from a retirement perspective. Uh, Obviously, we have to understand, brokers and, how that's all treated. Uh, Decentralized autonomous organizations, if we look at the DAOs. So here we get into, clarification what their activities are, tax treatment of digital asset lending agreements. So this is also important, right? If you're lending out digital asset, and exactly how does that then relate, and how do they address, look at this, how are they going to define what a security is also? I think that's going to be critical. Implementing effective IRS guidance. We saw the conforming amendments, again, related to some of the codes that are already on the books. Responsible security innovation. Uh, and this is also key security offerings involving ancillary assets. So we want to make sure that it's very clearly defined, because the SEC, again, doesn't just get to decide. So Gary Gensler running around saying, hey, that's a security and that's a security and that's a security. He doesn't get to do that, because he doesn't write the law. The SEC gets to abide by, and they are the investigative unit side of everything, but they don't write the laws. They can then take it, say, okay, we're going to take the laws that you have on the books, and we're going to look for violators and violations, and we're going to understand how to look for someone who has violated the specific laws that are on the books. Now, Congress, which is both the House and the Senate, they get to write the laws, and now they are taking responsibility. Now, one thing is that the SEC with Gary Gensler does not want Congress to actually write the laws defined by them. He wants the laws to be written and defined by him from his action, from what we've seen so far, which is completely, out of control. So, as we get into, this idea of the securities, and they look at, what's an ancillary asset, again, they're looking at securities acts. Now, think about when the security laws came into place with the rise of the SEC back in 1933, 1934. So we're talking about, almost 90 years ago, right? It's coming up soon. It'll be 100 years that we've been, existing with these laws. And some of them are a little bit outdated, as we've seen, like with the Howey test, can it be outdated when it was looking at oranges? How do you amend it? How do you add to it? And really, this is the lack of clarity is the reason for the SEC v. Ripple case. The SEC v. Ripple case would not be taking place right now today had there been clarity, had there been a Token Taxonomy Act or a bill like this in place that clearly defines who is responsible and defines all the terminology as we start moving forward, into this. So anyhow, this is 70 pages. We're not going to read through, every aspect of it, but I thought it was really important to kind of get a general, idea of where this is going, how this is going to protect the direction and growth within the U.S., innovation in the U.S. And, can it, can this actually protect the direction that we're moving in? So, that's a huge question, and so now we have to see, this is just the beginning stages. They're in the draft mode. So what happens when they throw this over to Congress? So let's say it does get through the Senate, say they vote it through and it goes and it has to go back to Congress and they have to look at it, or to the House. What happens when they hand it to the House? Do they then just sit on it? Do they actually push it and agree and push it back to the Senate to move on for signature by the president? Does the president then sign this? Does this bill, have enough legs, between now and when the new Senate and the new Congress come in after the elections in November? So there's a lot of what ifs here, and so we'll see what's happening. All right. So legendary, what is up? OTC XRP. Thanks for going over this word salad. I have a little clarity. I wish we had more clarity. This is just basically, the beginnings of this. And there's so much. There's so much here. I'm still drilling that. It's amazing. I mean, it amazes me, 70 pages, but think about some of these bills that have been put in front of Congress to be voted on. And you think about somewhere like 3,000, 4,000 pages. Sometimes they give it to them the night before, a couple days before, and say, here you go ahead and read this and vote on it. Nobody reads it, nobody understands it, and yet they vote on it. And it's really, really bad. In this case, 70 pages. You could sit there over the weekend and truly dissect it and understand it. So hopefully, they keep this as clear as it's meant to be. I really hope that that's going to be the case. So there was something else here that popped up, and I think this is really cool because this came from, let me get both tweets pulled up here. So let's see. Let me get rid of this. Don't need that open right now. Let us move over there and there it is. So, all right. So what do we have? Is that page 2? All right. Anyhow, so we'll have to look at the consecutive order that this comes in. And here we go. So we've got John Deaton. Now this is great because we have Congressman Crapo, and this is really key here, right? Because here we have an XRP holder receive this from Congressman Crapo after our Senator Crapo after using CryptoLux Connect to Congress. Senator Crapo is the senior Republican on the Senate Banking Committee. Slowly but surely. So here's an opportunity to respond. Now this was a letter, and as we dig into this letter, this again, imagine, this is so this is the Senate Banking Committee, right? And this is from the senator. So on opportunity to respond. So here we go. On May 10th, 2022, Empower Oversight, a watchdog nonprofit, requested the SEC's Office of the Inspector General to conduct an investigation regarding a former official, William Hinman, and his potential conflict of interest regarding Ethereum crypto. 2018, Hinman gave a speech stating that Ethereum sales and offers would not qualify. You guys know all this stuff. Do not place them under the SEC's jurisdiction and power oversight claims Hinman did not follow directives from the SEC's ethics office that would have allowed him to avoid conflict tied to his financial interest in Simpson Thacher, his former and now current employer, and the firm's connection to the Ethereum Alliance, right? So here, the claim is particularly grave in light of the SEC's ongoing lawsuit against Ripple on December 22nd. We know, right, when they announced the lawsuit, the SEC argues that the success of Ripple's digital currency, XRP, relies on the promotion innovation of Ripple. Okay, we know all this. Now, I agree that innovations such as cryptocurrencies are inevitable and beneficial, and that the U.S. should lead in their development. As virtual currencies become a larger part of our trading marketplace, it is important that regulations keep pace in order to foster this technology while maintaining just and equitable standards and ensuring full transparency. I will continue to work with my colleagues in this administration to develop established practices for the use of cryptocurrencies. Now, in light of all of this information, right, this is a nice, response. And I think, this is really, really, key, right? To see exactly, how this response, can be from somebody reaching out, regarding reaching out to a congressional representative through the crypto law link, which is just outstanding. So the second part is Senator Crapo's statement comes after over 40,000 messages have flooded Congress over crypto laws connect to Congress app on the gross appearance of improprieties by former SEC official Hinman. Keep up the pressure. It's working. Thank you sharing this correspondence you received. So it's great. This is, most people are going to be getting an automated response, but to see someone that's actually, passionate, and think there are multiple representatives out there, just like Cynthia Loomis, and here we go, Senator Crapo, that are caring about the direction that we need to take to protect our status with as leaders in this innovative space. And so it is important. Go to that crypto law, check it out. You guys can write to your congressional representatives, and it becomes, really, really important. So, I've just been talking and talking. Exactly, the Shermanator. So we got somebody reach out to the Shermanator out there in California. That Shermanator. I'll tell you what, he's the one that's completely anti crypto, and there are quite a few that are still out there within the House and within Congress, the House and the Senate, that are anti crypto. Why? Because they lose their powerhouse, right? And it's interesting. If you guys saw, there was a short clip that's been shared with AOC, and in almost 99%, 99.9% of the things she says are completely outlandish. But this one, she actually had one little insight of something that she had said regarding, completely wrong on, majority of what she had said in the statement. However, one point where she brings up the fact that most in Congress are beholden to the lobbyists. And so the lobbyists do pressure heavily on Congress. And it just happens that those lobbyists happen to get a bigger voice sometimes within Congress than everybody else. And the Shermanator, which is Alchemist, is bringing up the Sherman guy is a lunatic. His biggest lobbyists in his district are financial institutions. So go figure. Let's try to figure out, exactly, where he's coming from on that. So, all right. So I thought this was interesting too. We're going to try to, drill through some of these cool things here. Spent a lot of time on that opening with Cynthia Loomis, but I thought that was really cool. All right, so this was Brad Garlinghouse. So check this out. This was a couple days already. This was on May 30th. Brad Garlinghouse says NFTs are underhyped, right? You expect people to say they're overhyped. He says underhyped. And he sees a lot of new use cases. We're not going to go through the video, but let's see some of the things he said. Ripple announced a $100 million investment in carbon trading segment. So this was in an interview with Cointelegraph. Obviously, we know the WEF in their overreach with the WHO. But anyhow, Garlinghouse noted the rising profile crypto currency at the International Summit, comparing his experience over the last several years as leaders across the world learn how these technologies can actually benefit their constituents, benefit their economies, they're going to use them. I think we're seeing that happen every day. Now, we can see that they want to benefit, right? So let's benefit the constituents, the people that actually allow for these political representatives to do what they do. Now, the thing is that if they're going to, in many cases, they do the exact opposite, as we see here in the U.S. That even though crypto is critical, we've seen people like the Shermanator do the exact opposite. So it's insane, right? But he went on to say that NFTs are underhyped in spite of the fact that they're obviously a lot of hype. So now a lot of the hype around the NFTs, obviously, that craze, people making money on, who knows what because of a, NFT but the NFT marketplace is massive, and think about anything that has to have, some sort of secure legitimacy or authenticity, whether it's real estate or whether it's stock ownership or something that you can materially show ownership and possession of, and having that authentication. There's so many uses within the NFT space. So he's really spot on about that, and I thought that was pretty exciting actually to see what is happening with that. So I don't know. Chip put this up here. So what this is Johnny Depp. So let me see if I can grab this. Let me see if this plays. Hang on. So Chip is hilarious. He put this in here. So let's see. Hang on. I got to share this. All right, let's see. So Chip is saying Johnny Depp answers if he will sell his XRP despite being down 95%. So let's see what his response is to that. How's he going to respond to what Chip said?
Mr. Depp, you're down 95%. Have you ever considered selling?
No, I can't. That's a no.
I don't know where people come up with this stuff. It is great stuff. Great stuff. So I don't know. It was pretty funny. Oh man. So I like this. I like Alchemist. I'm expecting bad news. It's better that way. If you expect bad and you get good, then it's always good. All right. So what else do we have here that could be interesting? Okay, let's get to it. Let's get to this tweet. This was interesting. It was kind of a Twitter conversation that was going on here with Matt Hamilton. You guys know Matt Hamilton, right? We had him on the show the other night. Matt Hamilton was developer relations over for the XRPL or Ripple X. Sorry, but check this out. So this is interesting. So Watcher Guru here tweeted out. He said, ex Ripple developer Matt Hamilton predicts XRP will hit $100 at some point, right? And so we have here, and it was an interesting slew of tweets that went on. So we have Matt Hamilton said, look, I don't make price predictions. Crypto gutter press. What does Matt Hamilton predict? Okay, so what exactly was going? I love all the different things here, but let's see. Let's open this up. So it started out, Sir Bitcoin. No, you're missing the point. You're suggesting XRP could hit a market cap of $5 trillion. That's more than double Apple market cap. This is ludicrous. XRP is literally a worthless entry on a centralized database. By realizing a video that suggests this, you are promoting a scam. Releasing. Centralized. So Matt Hamilton responds, centralized database. Okay, so future valuations are very much subjective. and no one has a crystal ball, but pretending you don't know the difference between a blockchain and a centralized database is not going to help your assessment of things. The XRP ledger is decentralized. Sir Bitcoin comes back. Okay, we can disagree on that. He can say, okay, we agree to disagree on that, but whatever, right? This guy's obviously a Bitcoin maxi, is going to claim what he claims. So then he follows in and says, do you support his prediction of $100 XRP? So Matt Hamilton responds here, what makes you think the XRP ledger is a centralized database? You know how blockchain works, right? Now, Matt continues, I don't make price predictions, but I don't see why XRP couldn't hit $100 at some point. Just a question of time. If you said in 2009 that Bitcoin would hit $60,000, you'd be laughed at. So, exactly. Boom. See that XRP Chevy gets it. Sir Bitcoin lost the argument as soon as it started. So it's beautiful, right? Ignorance is bliss. Ignorance is completely bliss. And there you go. And it's amazing that it's kind of like it's an old argument, and this argument just continues because the Bitcoin maxis won't drop this notion that XRP, that anything else can can expand, beyond where it's at right now. That only Bitcoin can see $100,000 or beyond, per Bitcoin, and see what that actually looks at. Now, there are some interesting notions here in terms of the total money pot, like how much money is actually in, out there, like all the different, elements. And so we're talking about in the quadrillions of everything that's going on. All right. And then we look at, what the crypto space is, this little tiny microcosm that's growing, and it's taking over little by little because money is moving, right? And that's why there's regulation, and they're trying to hold the crypto expansion back as much as possible. And so we know the direction that this new technology is moving in, and even the governments that are looking at the CBDCs, et cetera. So how can you really then relate to what a market cap can be? Because if you go back 100 years ago, think about 1933, 1934, were they thinking about market caps that we're seeing today with like Amazon or Apple or some of these other companies? I mean, even back then, if you were to tell them that there was going to be a company with a market cap in the trillions, they'd probably look at you like you're crazy, right? And so this is the direction things are moving in. So, it's awesome. I don't know what all these all these other things that are, kind of going in here. But what is this? What is this over here? Justin, 1 year ago today, El Salvador's president announced a bill to make Bitcoin legal. That's amazing. A year ago. That was a year ago today. Already. It's unbelievable. Just amazing things that are going on in the space, at large. Man, look at this. The growth in this space, all sorts of commentary and whatnot that goes on in the Twitter spheres or what have you, out there. So let's see, there was something else here that I wanted to pull up. Let's see, where'd it go? This was, wait a minute, this is something else that Chip had to he put a comment on. So let's pull this over, and then let's look at what this enforcement is all about. Because, all right, here we go. So this is another hostile enforcement attempt by the SEC. JW breaks down why it's another disaster. Think about, and it's not just in the crypto space. We're starting to see insane things that go on just across the board. Things that that the SEC says. But let's look at this. Let's wrap with this interesting commentary here from JW Verret JD. So he said the SEC has proposed to require public companies to make disclosures about the future impact of climate change on their businesses. Here's my 26-page comment letter that I hope helps to strike it down in the inevitable litigation. Now he goes on, no matter how worried you are about climate change, this rule is shoddy financial reporting. Companies don't disclose the value of things 50 years in the future because it's speculative. right? But this rule would do just that. It's going to force companies to what? Report on something they have no clue. They don't even know how technology is going to impact things, how things will change. 50 years. So he says, I write that the proposal does violence to core principles of independence and objectivity in generally accepted accounting principles, right? Which is GAAP, generally accepted accounting principles, GAAP. The economic analysis, which is vital to show climate into impacts reasonable investors, or to show how climate impacts reasonable investors, consists of just a couple of footnotes cherry picking the literature. Now, it is crazy because we've talked about how insane this notion is that it's somehow reasonable investors and investors care about what's happening 100 years into the future, because you have to invest in what you have today. And that's just it's putting an undue hardship on these companies, and the SEC does not have jurisdiction over this stuff. And that's where he just keeps drilling down, and it really has to do with jurisdiction. Doesn't matter what your opinion is, one way or the other, on on how climate changes and what you think impacts why climate has changed ever since the world's been created. But the notion here is that the SEC doesn't have jurisdiction over forcing companies to report on any of this stuff. And it just kind of goes on and on. And I know Chip, brought it in because it's just one more overreach. And so we don't want to look at things in a vacuum, right? You look at what happens just from a general rule perspective, in terms of, how the SEC is impacting innovation and company growth and economic growth across the board, right? And that's what we've really seen in the past year to year and a half, is just an all-out attack on innovation and the growth of our economy. And we're seeing the outcome of it. But innovation. So hopefully, we talked a little bit about Cynthia Loomis's bill. Hopefully, we're going to see some big changes in the near future. Hopefully, we're going to see a positive outcome. I think there's going to be some things coming out here on Tuesday as well. SEC v. Ripple. There's some more info, some more updates. There's a lot of things that are coming out right now in regards to the crypto space. And so we got to look at from every aspect, on all the amazing things that are happening here. So, wow, a lot of great things. You guys are awesome. This has been a great show. Dug into a lot of topics here. Saw a lot of faces here, or a lot of names that we haven't seen before, and some like XRP Speedboat that we haven't seen in a long time. So there you go, Bird Dog. Crypto Ronin, what is up? Doge is the new cross-border payment rail system. There you go. It's either going to be Doge or the SHIB. We either go for straight up for Shiba. And Alchemist he was told that Queen Elizabeth flipped or will flip the switch. So all beware when it comes to that. Now we put up a poll in the very, very beginning. So let's end the poll. And let's see what happens when we end this poll. Let's see if the poll presents itself. There we go. At what point do you quit your job? $100 XRP, 40%. $10 XRP, 27%. $5.89, 26%. $1, 5%. So 166 of you guys voted. And that is $100 wins at 40%. There you go. There you have it. A lot of amazing stuff. XRP, XDC, XLM. There's so many different assets out there. Hey, Bitcoin's good too. So I like Bitcoin. So, but anyhow, let's gather here again Wednesday night. Look out for some shorts that are going to come out from you guys, come out to you guys tomorrow night and Tuesday. Tomorrow we might drop 2 different shorts, but we'll definitely have some shorts coming to you guys Monday and Tuesday, and then we'll be back at it again, Chip and I, Wednesday night. So look forward to seeing you guys here on the next one. Appreciate all you guys. Thanks for coming out. Thanks for showing up. Big shout out to our supporters that are out there and members that are in here with us. Legendary Jim D and others. There are others of you that were in the beginning of the chat. So anyhow, appreciate you guys, and we will check you guys out on the next one. I am out of here. Out. There we go.
Are you down with OTC? Please like, subscribe, and click the bell to be notified when the next video drops.